Hi, and welcome to another episode of Crushing It with Your Tribe. And today we are talking about our city's youngest homeless population and the organization that is doing everything they can to make sure that the path of homelessness stops with these families. I've got Greg Brinkley with Vogel Alcove, so stay tuned. It's an amazing, amazing organization.
As a Texas realtor, Robin McCoy is in the unique position to meet and know so many different people in a wide range of industries. These people are her tribe, and she leverages them not only to help her business, but to help theirs as well. Welcome to Crushing It with Your Tribe, where we share real talk about building business and life relationships. Here is your host, Robin McCoy.
Hi, everyone. Robin McCoy, a Texas realtor here in Dallas, Texas, and welcome to another episode of Crushing It with Your Tribe. And I'm very excited today because we have Greg Brinkley with us, and he is the Chief Development Officer over at Vogel Alcove. And I know if you've ever seen or heard or talked to me, you know I've mentioned Vogel Alcove before. It is an organization, Greg, that's very close to my heart. And I just want everybody to know who you guys are. So hopefully this is a step so some of my folks can know who you are too. So welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you, Robin, so much for having me. And, we tell people all the time, one of the greatest gifts that you can give us in our mission is just help spread awareness and help us really get our name out into the community about what we do and help us to engage more people. So this is a great opportunity, and I'm thrilled to be able to speak with you today.
Awesome. Well, let's tell a little bit about what is Vogel Alcove. I was introduced to you guys years ago through a Keller Williams Red Day, and you were still over, not where you are now. You were over on Harwood in that very, very, very small, small building,
Very
small
small
building.
building.
Yeah. But actually Vogel started before that in an even little smaller place.
It did.
So why don't you just tell us what Vogel Alcove is and how you've grown over the years and kind of where you are now?
Fantastic. So Vogel Alcove is a childcare and development facility that serves children and families affected by homelessness. So we partner with roughly about 21, 22 different agencies. So these are emergency shelters and domestic violence centers. And so to kind of give you an example of how our organization operates along with these partners, when a family, and when I say family, I'm talking typically a single mom in her early 20s with two kids under the age of 6. That is the typical demographic when you look at family homelessness, not only in this metroplex, but around the country. So when a family enters into one of our shelter partners, literally the first call is to Vogel Alcove so that we can enroll the child and the parent into our program. We tell people the way that we approach solving family homelessness is through a 2-generational approach, because you've got to work with the children and you've got to work with the family unit. And so when you look at Vogel Alcove, our facility is located in downtown Dallas. We're about a half a mile from City Hall in the City Park area of the Metroplex. And so we operate Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., where every single day we have 134 children that come to our facility. Those children are as young as 6 weeks of age, so think small infants, then toddlers and preschool kids. So our primary program for the children is infancy through 5 years of age. It's that early childhood area that we're focused on. And here shortly, I'll tell you a little bit more about why that's so critical and so important in terms of the work that we do. Now, we also, in the summertime, we have a summer camp program that serves school-age kids that are aged kindergarten through 8th grade. And that's roughly another 50 to 60 kids that will come to our facility for those programs. But what we're doing with the children while they're here at Vogel Alcove, we're doing early child education. We're doing what we call trauma-informed care. The children that come to Vogel Alcove, because of the situations, the circumstances, the environments that they've come from, the experiences that they've been through, and they continue to really work through, they're in trauma. They haven't come from a situation of trauma. They are in the storm as we speak. And so we've got to go to work to make sure that we're helping these kids learn, heal, and grow. And if you know anything about little children and you know about brain development, we can get very dorky in the terms of the work that we do here because it's all brain based. We know
Yeah.
we have a window of opportunity to get these little brains wired correctly, because if that doesn't happen, these brains are going to get wired the wrong way. And that leads to a life of social and emotional issues, lack of executive function. And then, turn on the evening news at night and look at a lot of the terrible stories that we see. So often we can trace that behavior back to trauma and back to childhood issues. So with the children here at Vogel Alcove, we're really wrapping ourselves around them in terms of not only our teachers, but our therapists to understand where their challenges are, where their developmental delays are, because we want to work as quickly as possible to get them back on track in terms of where they need to be in terms of their peer development. And with intention, with structure, and with routine, we're able to do that. And that's one of the reasons why we're so successful here at Vogel Alcove is we have a very comprehensive staff and very comprehensive program that's working with these children to help them get to where they need to be. In addition to the trauma work, the therapy work that we do, the early childhood education that we do, we also have a health program for our kiddos. So children that are coming from the environments that our kids are coming from typically are 4 times as likely to be sick as a child that's in a self-sufficient kind of nurturing environment. And so we have an on-site health clinic here with the kiddos. Parkland Hospital comes down several times a week with doctors and nurses to be able to do checkups with our kiddos and help with any medication that we need. The dental van will come. Of course, the kids hate it, but it's fantastic that we're able
They
to,
see the dental van roll up and just like grown-ups. Oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to go there.
Run and hide, right? So it really is a complete, overview of their health and wellness, their mental health, and their early child education. But then there's the family support side too. And so with our parents, it's so critical that we wrap themselves around, these families with our team of caseworkers who all have master degree level clinical caseworkers. And we're outlining what is your pathway from crisis to stability to a place of thriving. How can we get you to a place of where you're independent and self-sufficient? And that includes oftentimes 10 step forward and 15 step backwards before we go forward again. But it's providing all the tools and resources, goals, game plans, and we walk with them through whether it's getting degrees, finishing school, getting a job that pays a livable wage, working to move them into their own home as soon as we can, and then continue to provide those support services around them. And I think roughly, Robin, 50 to 60% of our families are working, which surprises a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the challenge is the jobs they're working aren't paying a wage that's going to allow them to get out of poverty. And so we've got to help them build the skill sets and the abilities to be able to achieve and then maintain jobs that pay livable wages. So our team of caseworkers work extremely hard and partnering with lots of outside resources to provide all the tools needed to get our families, again, from crisis to thriving. So believe it or not, I know that was a lot of information, but that's a very, very short kind of highlight overview of what Vogel Alcove does.
Yeah, well, and that's what I think is so critical. And when I started volunteering and just getting involved in the knowledge that I have, which is very limited about everything that you guys do, but it just provides a safe place for parents to leave their children so they can go and change the path they're on, where they don't have to take time off because school's out or those things that keep them in these low wage jobs because they have to just go from one to the other because there's no stability, as you said.
Yeah, that's a great point. And if you break it down to the most basic way to kind of talk about what we're doing is every single day, these children are safe, they're loved, and they're cared for. And to your point, how is a mom that's going through extreme challenges in her life? And again, we serve families that come to us from domestic violence. As you can imagine, family homelessness and domestic violence are often very, very much linked. We work with families that are coming out of sex trafficking, families that are coming out of circumstances where maybe they've been incarcerated, and so now they're rebuilding their lives. or we may have families that have had issues with drug addiction in the past. And so again, we're working to help them overcome those obstacles and develop a game plan for how they can move forward in their lives despite some of the challenges they've had behind them. And then in many cases, it's just a cycle of poverty that continues to repeat itself. So to break that cycle of poverty, how is a single mom with 1, 2, maybe 3 kids going to be able to do that if there's no childcare, if there's no support system? And that's what Vogel Alcove ultimately becomes. You know, I mentioned that 95% of the families that we serve are single moms. Well, in that network, if you look at the people they can turn to for support, it's often, if anybody, it's people that are in the same circumstances that they're in. So their support systems are extremely fragile, and they're really not going to be able to provide anything. We use an analogy often. We talk about, Robin, let's just use you and I for an example. Let's just say that we have a terrible, terrible circumstance occur and our home's burned down tonight.
Right.
Well, after we run out of the house, one of the first things that we're going to do is probably get out our phone and start calling people. And within an hour, we probably have a team of people that are around us to care for us, to help us get back on our feet, to provide what we need, and to make sure that we're moving forward despite this extreme challenge. Well, for our families, when they run out of that burning house, anyone that they can turn to, typically their houses are burning down too, and there's no one to be able to support them. So that's where Vogel Alcove steps in and says, look, we're going to be here with you, again, to walk with you every step of the way through these hardships, through these challenges, to get you to a place, again, where you can become stable and you're going to be able to be self-sufficient.
Well, and you mentioned it before about, it's the 2 generations, right? So you work with the parents to help get them on the right path, but you're also essentially rewiring these kids' brains so that they just don't follow that path. And and I've seen that where every child in the classroom has a birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
Every child gets a birthday present. Every child, because these are things that they may not get outside of Vogel Alcove. That all of our kids, they have, we all celebrate the birthday. Mm-hmm. So they also get those events so that they're special too.
Correct. I've been at Vogel Alcove now for 10 years. It'll be 11 years in December. And when I first started, our director of family services was having a conversation with me. And she asked me, she said, Greg, when you're looking at a child that's between the age of infancy and 5 years of age, tell me what you think is the number one variable when we're looking at a child at this age. What's the number one variable that we can look at to be able to identify their long-term success in school and ultimately in life? And I thought for a minute, and I said, gosh, that's a great question. And I imagine there's 50 things that are important, which she, of course, agreed with.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's probably their ability to maybe speak at a certain level at a certain age. Maybe it's the ability to identify shapes or colors by a certain age. And, she kind of laughed a little bit and said, well, those are all great guesses, Greg, but they're not the right answer.
But they're wrong.
But you're wrong. And she said, let me educate you. And she told me, and this is something that made a tremendous impact on me. She said the number one variable in a child's long-term success is their social and emotional well-being and their ability to self-regulate, their ability to, when they become upset, to calm themselves down, their ability to, when they get excited, to be able to level back down. And when you think of children and toddlers that we have in all of our lives, we know that's something that all kids, have
to learn
opportunities to do that. They struggle with it. But, for children that are coming from trauma, children that are coming from the environments that our kids are coming from, a disappointment can turn into a 45-minute fit until they finally pass out from exhaustion. They're not able to come back from. So a lot of what we do is teach this self-regulation, teach them how to calm themselves down, how to center themselves, how to understand their emotions. One of the things that we talk about is go ask any kindergarten teacher, any first grade teacher, and she'll tell you the most important thing is a child that can be in that classroom and be emotionally stable, be able to kind of ebb and flow with the changes, and when things happen, not necessarily just have complete meltdowns all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Well, with our kiddos, that's a big challenge. And if we're not here to address that, those different issues continue to go through all their elementary school and beyond. And that's why you see so many children having extreme difficulties being able to function in a classroom setting, which again just leads to a lifestyle of being completely behind the 8 ball their entire lives. So
Right.
we know with the specialized services and the curriculum, the routines, everything that we do here, from the birthday parties
Yeah.
to even just having fun and just playing, all leads to these kids being able to have these experiences that are building up that social and emotional work. And then, of course, for the children that we know that have extreme behaviors, we have a mental health team, a child therapist here on site that works with those kiddos to help them really be able to get in
That's
deep with some of
amazing.
those feelings that they're struggling with.
Well, because as you said, these kids are in the midst of trauma,
Hmm.
right? They go home at night, home to a shelter,
Hmm.
and they don't have anything that is their own, right? It's just difficult. They don't have their own room with all their toys in it.
Yeah. And in many
And
cases, it's things they've lost along the way. Maybe at one point they had that, and now that's no longer there. And
yeah,
when you said that, you made me think of a recently. We actually, our senior team at Vogel Alcove, each month we identify a book that we read, and then we come back as a team and we discuss it and we talk about key takeaways that we can use in terms of our staff, our work, our mission, and of course, our personal lives as well. And we recently read a book called "What Happened to You." And this is a book that's authored by, gosh, I wish I had it on my desk 'cause I'm
a
forgetting the
friend of mine
author.
just brought this book up yesterday to me.
Yes. Well, the co-author of this book is Oprah Winfrey, so that's obviously easy name to work with. But she authors this book along with an expert in early childhood education and trauma. And one of the things that oftentimes when we see behavior in a person, the first thing we typically ask is, "What's wrong with you?"
Correct.
When the correct question is actually, "What happened to you?" And so he goes into, again, how trauma affects the brain and the challenges that come because of that.
Yeah.
Now, he also talks about, well, just because we've had these things happen isn't an excuse for bad behavior and for, these different types of things, but we have to learn how we can get help, how we can provide help. And oftentimes just being educated ourselves and knowing that when we see certain types of behavior, there's reasons behind that.
Right.
And there's ways that we can respond differently, and there's ways that we can provide help, especially those that are really linked in our inner circles of our lives, whether it's our personal lives or our colleagues or whatnot. It really just gives us a leg up in being able to understand how we can communicate with people. So for those of you that are listening, whether you're a reader or if you like Audible books, this has been one of the most impactful books that I've read. And I say I read, I'll be honest, I actually listened to it over Audible. But it was extremely impactful in terms of what really trauma can do to individuals, especially children, but also adults.
Yeah. And there's, and trauma is kind of this big word, but it can be anything.
Hmm.
It's how you, what happened in your life that caused something bad to happen, right? Whether it's you are experiencing homelessness or you've watched, these kids, these kids are babies and they've seen things that adults should never see.
Hmm. Correct.
And so there's that extreme trauma there that they need to learn how to deal with that and not,
Mhm.
I don't know how to say it, but it's I look at these kids and by no fault of their own, they are in this situation.
Mhm.
And how can, this organization, this Vogel Alcove organization understands that and says, okay, let me help you.
Absolutely.
Be the leader you know you can be. Build your professional network and access education that takes you where you want to go. We are women of all ages and backgrounds. You deserve national recognition and opportunities to build relationships with people you want to work and grow with. Hit the ground running with the Charisma chapter of the American Business Women's Association. Meetings each month from 6 to 8:30 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday in Farmers Branch, Texas, and online. Come with us. Experience ABWA for yourself. Go to charisma.abwa.org to learn more.
This organization, this Vogel Alcove organization, understands that and says, okay, let me help you.
Absolutely. And when you look at children, it's amazing how resilient children are and how just strong and how they really adopt to adversity. But at the same time, we also realize that these circumstances, these situations, can cause and do cause considerable amount of hardships.
Yeah.
And so again, we have a window of opportunity. We have some families that are with Vogel Alcove. They come when their child's an infant and they stay with us all the way until they go into kindergarten and they get into the DISD school district. Typically, those kids will come back to us for our school age program in the summertime as well. But we'll have some children that are with us for 6 and 7 weeks. Maybe they come from a domestic violence situation where mom needed to escape a dangerous environment, and roughly we're able to kind of move them along, a little bit more quickly. But we know the average length of stay on whole is roughly about 18 months. So again, we've got a window of opportunity to be able to work with these kids. And again, so much of the impact that we can provide is simply done through routine, through structure, through getting these children in an environment where they can be kids. They're excited, they're happy, they feel safe, they can sleep during the day. They've got nap time.
I was going to say they take naps, which is sometimes difficult to sleep at night in a shelter because it's loud and there's people around. And sometimes their best sleep and their best meals are at Vogel Alcove.
That's correct. So they get 3 meals here at Vogel Alcove, and our goal is to provide 100% of their nutrition while they're here at our facility. Again, because we know when they walk out of our doors, we never know what dinner or what other meals are going to look like. And, I mentioned earlier that we've got 134 kids in our pre-K program, and of course the 50 to 60 that are in our school age program. One of the metrics that I'm most proud of is on any typical day, if you look at all the families that we're serving, we've moved roughly 50% of those families into some type of apartment or some type of housing. That's one of the first real critical steps that we're trying to do, is get them in a place of their own so that we can start creating that stability, and then we can start building more with those wraparound services to be able to help support them. But even in that environment, so half our families are in shelters and in domestic violence centers, half our families are in, say, some type of apartment or housing. Oftentimes, the folks that are in the apartments and housing oftentimes can be one of the more, for lack of a better word, they have some of the bigger challenges because they don't have as many support systems around them as they might while they're in the shelter. And so there's a lot of work that our case managers have to do to keep them moving forward and keep them from falling backwards, right? But that's another thing. When you go back to the shelter, they obviously may have meals that are there.
Yeah.
When you're leaving to go back to your apartment, well,
it may be ramen noodles.
Exactly.
Right?
And so a cool project that we've done now for several years, and I think Keller Williams has done this with us, is we do bye-bye bags.
Yes.
And so these are snack bags that every day when our children leave the facility to go back to where they're staying for the evening, whether it's the shelter or their apartment, they get a little bag that's got some type of protein, bottle of water, fruit cup, goldfish crackers, things of that nature, non-perishable items that can be a meal substitute if needed, or most of the times just an afternoon snack, an evening snack that it's nice to have. So we really are intentional about understanding every single need that our families may have, and then making sure that we're addressing that.
Now, do you have any way of tracking, like, these children, they come through, their average in their time with you, 18 months to whatever, there's the success rate of those kids later? I mean, Vogel's been around for, I don't even know,
years.
36 years. So when I was there once, one of the teachers in the classroom said this young woman walked in. I think she was probably early 20s, late teens. And she looked at this instructor and she said, "I know you don't know who I am, but I was," and I may cry, "I was a child here at Vogel Alcove, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and you were my teacher."
I love that.
And now my mother was in a domestic violence situation. She found, she's doing great. Me and my sister are doing great. And and she was volunteering. She said, "I wanted to come back." And I wanted to do, I'm going to cry. I wanted to do for other kids what you guys did for me.
I love that.
And that's it.
Two answers to your question. One, we don't have a defined process of being able to, track families year after year after year. And one of the reasons why it's very difficult, because when our families leave, they're going all over the place, right? They're moving all over the metroplex, the state, the country potentially. And for many of our families, this is a journey of their lives that wasn't something that they want to necessarily revisit consistently, right?
True.
They want to move on and grow with their lives. And there's really not a way for us to have any type of a system that we can force them to stay in touch with us, or that we can keep up with where they're going. That being said, the story that you shared, we hear in the thousands.
Do you? That's great.
I can't tell you how many times I've been somewhere and I have got a Vogel Alcove t-shirt on and someone comes up and shares their story, or we hear that from our staff and our team. A story that I will never forget. Years ago, I was speaking at a Fortune 500 company, and I did a presentation about Vogel Alcove to a group of about 500 people. And when I was finished, many of the department heads were kind of lined up to come and talk to me quickly to say, hey, I'd like to get my department involved in volunteering or helping you guys with fundraising. Here's my card, those type of things.
Sure.
And as the line was shortening, there was a woman that I could tell that kept letting people cut in front of her so that she would be the last person in line. And as the line was shortened to about 3 or 4 people, out of the corner of my eye, I could see that she was visibly emotional and I could see tears in her eyes. So by the time she came to speak with me, I was preparing myself for probably a pretty difficult story. And because of the work that we do, it's amazing some of the people that will come up and share what they've been through and some of the hardships, and that really kind of helps them understand and relate to our mission. But what she shared with me shocked me. She said, Greg, I wanted to come and introduce myself because I was a Vogel Alcove mom 16 years ago. And my story was I actually came from another country in what was, for lack of a better definition, kind of an arranged marriage that became very dangerous. And when she was able to escape that relationship, she really had nowhere to turn. She had no family, no friends, no job. And so she turned to a shelter here in Dallas that works with domestic violence. And of course, her and her infant were immediately referred to Vogel Alcove. And so she shared how her little boy eventually took his first steps at Vogel Alcove, how Vogel Alcove helped her get her first job, and then how Vogel Alcove helped her get back on her feet. And she became a very successful professional here in the Metroplex. And today she actually serves on our board of directors.
That's incredible.
And it's stories like that we hear all the time. But I've also got to be honest, we have a lot of really difficult stories. Yeah. And the population that we serve, while we don't have a system of being able to necessarily track people, we do stay in touch through our case managers and just our teachers and our staff with families for years and years as they do kind of move on. Nothing, scientifically or nothing with metrics and things like that. But there's some very sad stories where the outcome did not go well. And those are hard. But we know that here at Vogel Alcove, and we do have tons of metrics to understand, when the children come here and when the families come here, we do a variety of assessments on them. So we understand kind of where they're at in these journeys in their lives. And especially with the children, we can track them developmentally to see how we're progressing them to what we know they need to be in terms of so many different types of metrics and things that match up in the realms of early childhood. And one thing that I'll share with you that's a statistic that I'm very, very, very proud of. Children leaving Vogel Alcove, or let me back up, all children entering DISD, the Dallas Independent School District, roughly 40% of those children are skilled out as school ready. 90% of Vogel Alcove pre-K kids going into kindergarten are school ready. That is a tremendous success story.
Wow.
We give a ton of credit to our teachers. And then on top of that, we have a kind of a metrics that we work with our parents in terms of making sure we're moving them on the right path in terms of where they're going, in terms of their health and wellness, their education, their career opportunities, so that we can look and say, okay, are we just managing homelessness? Are we just managing these issues? Or are we actually making an impact and moving them from, point A to where they need to be in terms of going from crisis to stability to thriving? Right. So that's how we know what we do works, is because we grade ourselves and we have metrics that we follow. Now, of course, once they leave our program and they move on, there's not really a way that we can continue to do that. But all the science and all the research shows that, again, for the children, if you can make that impact in this early childhood time frame, you are going to set that children up for opportunity for success. And with
Yeah.
our parents, if we can get them stable and get them past these hardships, the likelihood that they are going to continue to move forward in their lives exponentially increases.
And this just becomes a blip in their past. It was
Correct.
that it was a situation and it was a bad situation, but
Yeah.
they're not, it's over. And
Yeah.
now we're successful, we're stable. My kids are in school, I'm working, and it was
Mhm.
just an unfortunate blip in the
Yeah,
in the
and
continuum.
transparently, for some families, you're exactly right. It's just a blip, but for others, it will be a lifelong battle. And
Yeah.
we have parents that we work with that were Vogel Alcove kids, 20 years ago that didn't have a Vogel Alcove, right? So
Mm,
these are
right.
families that have experienced the same trauma, the neglect, the abuse, the violence. You fill in the blank of the circumstances they may have gone through, and now they're parents. And some of the challenges they're going through, it's extremely difficult to get them to where they're going to be in a situation where they're completely independent. They're always going to need some type of help and
Yeah.
support. But one of the things that we talk about here with our staff and our team is one of the primary drivers behind our mission is that these little children that are here today, our goal is that they will not be
Yeah.
that adult, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so we've got to do everything we can to try to make that happen.
Well, okay, so what can the people that are listening, what can they do if they are called, just like, I mean, these little kids, they they will grab your heart every time. What are some things that the public can do now that they're aware that you exist and what
Mhm.
your mission is? What can they do to help you further that?
You can really kind of narrow it down to three categories.
Are you looking to buy or sell a home in the bustling DFW area? Look no further, because I am Robin McCoy, your trusted real estate agent with Keller Williams Realty. For over 15 years, I've been helping buyers and sellers navigate the real estate market here in DFW. So whether you're looking for your dream home or aiming to sell your property for the best price, relax. I got this. As a seasoned professional, I'll guide you through the entire process, ensuring a smooth and stress-free experience. I understand that buying or selling a home can be a significant decision. That's why I pride myself on providing exceptional customer service. I'll be with you every step of the way, answering your questions and addressing your concerns. So why take a chance with just any real estate agent? Choose me, Robin McCoy, the professional who has proven my excellence in helping both buyers and sellers in the DFW area for over 15 years. Call me today at 214-226-3770 or visit my website at robinmccoyrealty.com. Let's make your DFW real estate dreams come true. Relax. I got this. Now that they're aware that you exist and what your mission is, what can they do to help you further that?
You can really kind of narrow it down to three categories. So one, we are transparent and tell people we need help fundraising. We operate right now on about an $8 million budget. That budget will be growing to about $10 million here in the coming years because we are working now to expand into, over the next 12 months, 2 additional Vogel Alcove locations.
Wow.
And then potentially a 4th Vogel Alcove location by 2025, 2026, so that we can serve more children, more families. Why? Unfortunately, family homelessness isn't decreasing. It's continuing to increase, and it's not a downtown Dallas issue. So in fact, one of the facilities that we're going to be opening will be in Collin County, or excuse me, it's in Dallas County. Let me back up as I'm stating my facts incorrectly. It is in Collin County, but it's a Dallas address, so it's kind of a
Got it.
unique type spot up north. And then we'll have a facility in southern Dallas, and we're looking to have another facility that will be kind of on the the western side of the Metroplex. But it's to be able to serve again more children and more families. And it's expensive to do what we do. We have to raise money from this community. And so whether it's joining what we call our flight program, which is a recurring donor program where every month you're giving at least $25, right? That adds up over time. And if we get enough people engaged doing that, that's huge. Maybe it's a one-time gift and you can give what you can. We need individuals that may have the ability to give a major gift, a large amount of money. That's so helpful for what we're doing. And of course, there's so many ways for corporations to be able to give, whether it's through sponsorship of events or to give programmatically to the variety of different programs that we have here at Vogel Alcove. But we tell people that funding without relationships doesn't tend to last. And so we also are looking for people that want to engage, whether they come down and volunteer with our kids. You'll become a rock star within roughly 3 or 4 minutes of being at Vogel Alcove, because the kids are just craving for you to come and have fun with them, right? And people are surprised all the time when they tell us, are like, I thought I was going to come to Vogel Alcove and see kids that were just miserable and sad, but they're like, we come here and we see excited, fun-loving kids with smiles and laughter and just so much enthusiasm. And we need people to support our teachers. We need people to be playground buddies, help us to sort our clothing that we get. And that's another volunteer initiative, is maybe you can't come down to Vogel Alcove, but you can do a clothing drive, a diaper drive, a toy drive. There's seasonal items that we need throughout the year that you can go to our website, which is vogelalcove.org. And you can look to see what upcoming items that we need that you can rally your neighborhood or your office to be able to do. And so, again, the first one's fundraising, the second one, volunteerism. And the third is, kind of wrapped up in advocacy or awareness. What we're doing today is a great example of that. Help us get our name out. Help us introduce ourselves to your company. Introduce Vogel Alcove to your church. Introduce Vogel Alcove to your friends. You can come down here, take a tour, see the facility in action, and understand, hey, is this an organization that I feel led, to engage in some shape, form, or fashion? It might be inviting me to come out and speak to your civic group or an organization that you're involved with. Simply go to our Facebook page, share some of our Facebook posts, say, hey, this is an organization in Dallas that needs help. And they're doing a tremendous amount of work to be able to help children and families that are, really working to overcome poverty and homelessness. If you feel led to be engaged, reach out to them and they will help you find ways that match up with your strengths. So those are really kind of the three ways: help us raise money, volunteer, and help raise awareness for the organization.
Well, I hope that we are able to do some of that here. I'm going to get my diaper drive. I do it every year. You guys go through, like, I don't know, how many diapers a month, just to kind of give people an idea?
We probably need to go back and recount, but at one time I know that we are going through about 5,000 diapers a month.
Okay, so think about that, folks.
We go through lots of diapers.
5,000 diapers a month, give or take a diaper or 10, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to get that diaper drive going. We're going to get a truckload of diapers down to Vogel Alcove next month. And, if you're doing the toy drives, and like you said, coats and swimsuits and rubber boots in the winter and winter coats for kids, and all these things are the things that you and your organization can do that will directly help these kiddos that need them. And we all know financially, organizations like yours always need money. So if there is a fundraising drive you can do within your organization, if your company matches donations, let's rally some of those corporations out there too.
Love it. And maybe the easiest thing to do is just reach out to us. You can go to our website. We've got links you can click that will send an email to, like, our info, which myself and my team review daily. Or you can reach out to me. And my email address is gbrinkley@vogelalcove.org. You can also find that on our website. But send me a note and say, hey, I'm looking to get involved with Vogel Alcove. We'll share all the different ways that you can kind of review.
You're not going to hold back. You're not going to hold back.
But what we try to do, and this is one thing that I'm very proud about in terms of our organization, is we want to make it as easy as possible for people to help us. And so we prioritize, how can we be an organization that really helps to identify other people's strengths and use that to help us move our mission forward. And so,
well, and I think that's the way to do it, right? Not everybody can be in a classroom, and yet maybe they can be on the playground while they're waiting for their parents to come get them, or any number of different things. So if there's one thing, you may have just said it, just call me. But if there's one thing that maybe we didn't mention that that you want to make sure you get across before we go?
Yeah, I think it'll just really kind of fall into the lines of just what I believe is critical for each and every one of us, and that is serving others.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest joy you can find in your life is taking the focus off yourself and putting it on other people. And each and every one of us, I believe, has an obligation to try to make the lives of other people better, whether that's through small acts of kindness or occasional, impactful, service opportunities. The list can go on forever of what that means to each person. But in our lives, it's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and the bustle and in our comfort culture of just trying to make sure that we're just supplying our needs and we're setting ourselves up, when I think oftentimes it's taking, again, the spotlight off ourselves and putting it on others. So whether that's Vogel Alcove or whether that's another organization, whether it's simply just people in your lives, my challenge to people typically is just look where you can serve, and then write down on a piece of paper, what's your plan for how you're going to do it? Don't make it just something that you talk about or think about, but how are you going to bring that to action? And I think if we can get enough of us doing that, we're going to see a lot of great change in this community and, in the world that we live in. And it may be a little bit of a philosophical statement, but I just believe that, again, if we can intentionally ask ourselves how we can help others, we're going to be doing more to help ourselves than we actually will ever realize.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Because it's not about you. It's about everybody else. So, well, thank you so much for sharing everything about Vogel Alcove with us today. Congratulations, I guess, on your expansion. And yet we really want that we want to put you out of business somehow. Yeah. But unfortunately we're not there yet. So
we definitely have, we talk about, we have a job that we would love to work ourselves out of. But until we do that, we've got to grow to meet the need. And then, we'll see what happens.
Well, you guys have a phenomenal program. I'm sure you model for many other cities around the country because of what you do. And, it's all about growing some really happy kids.
Absolutely. So. Love it. Well, Robin, once again, thank you. This was so much fun. But it means a lot to me because anytime we have an opportunity to share our mission, we know that we're helping these kids and families that are here at our facility every day. So many thanks.
We'll do our best on this end. So everybody, we're going to put all Greg's information, Vogel Alcove, everything in the show notes so that you can find it easily. And that's a wrap on another episode of Crushing It with Your Tribe. Thanks again, Greg. I really appreciate you being here, and let's spread some awareness about Vogel.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Thanks for joining us for Crushing It with Your Tribe with Texas Realtor Robin McCoy. Check out all the show notes for contact information on Robin and her guests and to access your free resources and information discussed on this episode. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a conversation. Thanks again, and we will see you next time on Crushing It with Your Tribe with Robin McCoy.